Once again, hello everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Thank you for joining us. Today we'll be focusing on unveiling Black Basta's use of PhaaS platforms. We still have a few more attendees coming in. We appreciate, of course, everyone taking their time to sit down with us. Just before we get started and before I present today's presentation, first of all, let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Amir. I'm from the marketing team, focusing on our product marketing activities. I'll introduce our speaker for today in just a moment. But before I do, I just want to walk you through just a few housekeeping rules for this webinar. So as you've already noticed, this webinar is being transmitted in lecture mode. What this means is that all attendees are muted. Having said that, you can ask questions throughout the webinar. You can do so by using the Q&A panel. You can find the Q&A button either on the bottom of your Zoom application or somewhere around. It's there. If you have any problems, of course, just feel free. If you don't find the Q&A and find the chat, you could also contact us through there. In addition to that, this webinar is being recorded. Once the webinar is over, you will also receive an email with a link to the recording so that you can rewatch it at a later date. And as I mentioned before, if you have any issues with Zoom throughout the webinar, just feel free to contact one of the organizers through the chat box. So moving on, just before we go to the topic for today, for those of you who are not familiar with KELA, just a quick word about who we are. So we've been around for about 10 years, since 2015, the beginning focusing predominantly on cyber threat intelligence, but over the years, we've expanded our offering and our technologies. And today we work with our customers and various organizations around the world to provide them full visibility on their attack surface and the risks within it. This is spanning the organizational attack surface, external attack surface, third-party risks, and customer risk as well, to basically map out all the known and unknown risks. In addition to that, we provide our customers full visibility into the underground cybercrime network. What this basically is providing a full view of the attacker perspective of how cybercriminals are viewing and leveraging vulnerabilities within your organization. We do this through dark web monitoring various different sources. And in general, all this ties in together with a set of technologies which include cyber threat intelligence, digital risk protection, external attack surface management, breach and attack simulation, third-party risk management, Gen AI security, digital CTI analysts, and more. All this feeds into our suite of solutions, which focus on various specific cyber risks. So Agal, you can move on to the next slide. And these risks include solutions spanning from ransomware protection, cybercrime investigation, supply chain risk, exposure management, and phishing and brand protection, which actually ties in nicely to today's topic. So with that, Agal, if you can open your camera, I'll introduce our speaker for today. So let's just see that we've got her. Say hello for a second. Still muted?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. So
Okay.
Hagar, one of our experts from our threat intelligence analyst team, she's been researching the topic for today. I know we've got a very exciting presentation, so I don't want to take any more of our time. So Hagar, go ahead, take it away. We're with you.
Thank you so much, Amir. And hi, everybody. So yeah, my name is Agar Buchnik. I am a threat intelligence analyst here at KELA, and I've recently joined a team of analysts who are focusing on financially motivated cybercrime. And I'm here today to talk to you about Phishing-as-a-Service and a bit of what it is and how it is used today by ransomware operations. This will be our agenda for today, and we'll be talking about what Phishing-as-a-Service is and how it falls in line into the cybercrime ecosystem that is growing each day with more and more services that allow cybercriminals to outsource a lot of their operation. Then we'll talk a bit about Black Basta, which was once a top-tier operation, ransomware operation, and is now inoperative due to like a grand reveal that it experienced. We'll talk about that soon. And then we will be talking about Black Basta's use, how it used to use Phishing-as-a-Service. Moving on to some recommendations and leaving time for questions at the end. And don't hesitate to leave comments in the comment section and questions and anything that you want to know. So let's start. Let's start with some basic terms. A lot of you might already know them. Some of you may have received them, but let's talk a little bit about phishing and what it is. So phishing, these are fraudulent emails or messages, text messages that try to trick users either to download malicious content or to just reveal sensitive information like passwords or credit card information. This ties pretty close to spear phishing and what it is. This is pretty similar, but the only difference is that puts it in a different category is that spear phishing is a targeted attack. It is aimed to trick either a specific person or organization, and this usually is done by using more personal details or more crafted, tailored emails or messages that are aimed to trick a specific type of victim. Then we have Phishing-as-a-Service, which is what we're here to talk about today. And Phishing-as-a-Service is essentially how cybercriminals learned how to monetize and leverage phishing just to make money. And these are services that allow other cybercriminals to launch attacks way, way more easily. So right here we have an example of phishing. This is a bit blurred, but you might be able to see a little bit. On the left, we have an AWS site login page, and this is the legitimate site. And on the right, we have a fake AWS login page, and you can see that it looks very, very similar. It's very hard to tell. The only thing that is noticeable on the right is that the URL is different. The URL is not the original domain, and this site doesn't have a certificate. However, threat actors today also know how to make a URL seem quite close to the real authentic URL and how to gain a certificate for the site. So it's very, very hard to tell these days whenever you are trying to log into a phishing page. So yeah, before we continue to talk about phishing a bit more, I want to go back a little bit, go out a little bit, and talk a little bit about some of the other third-party products or services that you can find today, that maybe not you, but cyber criminals can find today. And this is an ecosystem that grows every day, and we understand just every day how cyber criminals just outsource a lot of their operation to other service providers or product providers on underground services. This usually happens in Telegram channels or underground forums or black markets accessible through the dark web. And Phishing-as-a-Service or phishing kits, phishing services of all kinds that we will be talking about, they fall into this category as well. And we know that this nowadays, these services right here, or products right here that you see that are that allow cybercriminals to outsource, these are very, very common ways of cybercriminals and threat actors to gain initial access to a network or an organization. So some of you may have heard about InfoSeal logs. This is the most frequent the initial access vector for ransomware operations today to get initial access. We have the initial access itself that is a one step farther, for example, and some cyber criminals have already taken their foot through the door and just sell ready-made access, allegedly, to organizations. And we also have criminals selling exploits to several vulnerabilities that are heavily used by cyber criminals and ransomware operations today. And this is how they gain initial access, by buying stuff on underground forums or other cybercrime platforms. And yeah, you know that cyber criminals just prefer to get an easy access and pay money over than taking time to try to do something on their own. This is a very common way of initial access. Okay, back to phishing a little bit. So nowadays, we see that a lot of times threat actors need phishing at their initial access. Sometimes there is no going around it, and we will be talking about that more. However, creating your own phishing campaign, this is a multi-stage operation, and it is actually very hard to do. It requires a threat actor to be technically proficient and detail-oriented, meaning that they don't make grammar mistakes. It also requires them to be very highly organized, which means they have to store every username or password they have tried to steal, or session cookies, which we'll talk about later. They have to be quick. A lot of this credentials change kind of quickly and they have to use that quick. And this is something that's actually hard to manage. And they found there's actually a very, very quick solution, very easy solution. And it is just going on cybercrime forums, finding a service, paying for it, adjusting it, and using it. And this is what we are talking about today. This is phishing as a service, which obviously PhaaS. This is the phishing as a service. Okay, so phishing as a service today allows cybercriminals to skip a lot of the multiple stages that phishing requires today. And on the screen right now, you can see right here just a few of the stages and the steps that are required in order to launch a phishing campaign. It starts with the malicious scripts themselves and writing the fishlets, which are essentially the templates, the blueprint that tell a website how to behave like a similar website. This is about the hosting, the infrastructure, rotating infrastructure, acquiring domains and changing the domains every time, social engineering, and triggering MFA prompts, multi-factor authentication, which is something that we will talk about also soon. This is a lot, and using phishing as a service allows threat actors to gain credentials a lot more easily. And these credentials will also be company specific or service specific. We will talk about that also soon. It's very scalable. It allows them to send multiple emails, thousands of emails. It's quite confidential. Usually the threat actors will buy services from providers that have reputation already. And usually it's quite a trusted process. It doesn't have to be, but most of it is. And it's supported, meaning that the providers of the phishing as a service will also provide support, live support for every issue that arises in this attack process. Okay, so I've mentioned MFA a few times, and some of you also maybe think that you are very protected with MFA, multi-factor authentication, and I'm here to say that we're not so very protected just using MFA. So just 1 second, defining what MFA is, you probably know it, but it's built out of 3 generic factors. The first being something that you know, a password. The second is something that you have, like maybe a USB, a security token, or your phone, and something that you are, for example, a fingerprint or your face scan. And this does provide a great protection. It's very much preferred rather than using just username and password, but it's not exactly bulletproof. And this is what we're here to talk about today. And essentially, phishing is able nowadays to bypass MFA. Info stealer logs are able to do that as well. And they do that by stealing your session cookies, which are essentially, when I complete an MFA, when I fill in my username and password to the AWS website and I press continue, the next site that I'm going to be on will be a request from Amazon to put in a code that I've received on my phone or put in a code that I've received on SMS or email. And this means we all know, and we might think that if a threat actor has only stolen my username and password, they will be stuck in that MFA stage and they won't be able to bypass MFA. But that's unfortunately is not true. And once I've completed the MFA, the website sets a session cookie in my browser. And this cookie stores a session token that says user has passed MFA successfully. Great. That means for me that when I connect to many systems, multiple systems while I work and they're all linked to the same service, for example, Microsoft, that means I won't have to log in every time I come to work. I only have to do this a few times every week, every month, depends. And that's so great. It makes my work a lot easier. However, it's actually kind of risky for us because that saves the session cookie. And as long as the session cookie is active, meaning that the browser is open and the cookie is not expired, so there is no need to do a second MFA. And the cookie, it's temporarily saved. It saves the MFA. And this is actually something that is stealable. It's something that threat actors leverage. They know how to use now. Okay, so I have here a video, a quick demonstration This is a video showing Evil Jinx. Evil Jinx is a phishing kit, a phishing tool that sets up a proxy between the user and the real website. So the user thinks that they put in their username and password into the real site, but really they're putting it into a proxy phishing page. So I'd like to show you this because this is actually pretty interesting. Okay. So on the left here, we have the attacker screen, and on the right, we have the victim screen. So we can see now a victim opens their email, got an email, it looks okay, I suppose, and they click on the link. Once they've clicked on the link, you can see on the left that the attacker has gotten a notification that tells them, well, somebody clicked on your notification, somebody clicked on your link, congratulations. And on the right here, we can see the victim trying to log into something that looks very, very much like a Microsoft login page, but it isn't. This is a proxy page, a website, a phishing page. They put in their email. Now they're going to put in their password. How great, how fun. Awesome. So now you can see that on the left, the attacker received and collected the username and the password. This is done this simple. And you can also see that the fake website has now, it prompted an MFA, triggered an MFA prompt. And now the victim is requested to put their code into their phone. Once they do that and they do facial recognition, they get access to the real Microsoft page. So you can now see that the phishing page requested the victim to store the cookie session. And now the victim is being transferred into the actual legitimate Microsoft page, meaning that there has been an actual real login into Microsoft using the session cookie. This session has already also been stored on this side of the attacker. And we can see now on the left that the attacker can just now access and request Evil Jinx, which is the phishing kit, to display the session cookie. And it will display the session just like this. The attacker will now copy this session cookie and go into their browser. And they will try to access Microsoft. But in order for them to log into the specific page that they want to the specific account, sorry, that they want to, they will have to insert the session cookie into the website. So they use an extension on the browser to put in the session cookie. They refresh the page, and they're now in the account of the credentials of the person that they stole the credentials from. And that was that easy. This was done in just a few minutes. Okay, how do I move? Okay. All right, so Evil Jinx is a phishing kit, a phishing tool, not exactly phishing as a service, as it doesn't provide the entire infrastructure and the support that we know that phishing as a service nowadays provides. However, it's used commonly, and a lot of phishing as a service actually looks very, very much like Evil Jinx, or another tool that's called Modlishka, that is also used by threat actors today. But the Black Basta members, sorry about that, the Black Basta members that we will talk about soon, they did not want to use Evil Jinx for their campaign, for their phishing campaign, because Evil Jinx, while it works nice, it is more and more detected these days. It doesn't include the support, and it's harder to set up. It requires every person that tries to use it to set it up. And also, Black Basta looked for specific accesses to specific services that they already had exploits exploits for vulnerabilities on the services. So they were looking also for phishing pages that matched their needs, and Evil Jinx doesn't really supply that. You can see on the right, Evil Jinx provide fishlets, which are the fake pages, essentially the templates for a lot of services. Right here, we have Amazon, we have Okta, we have Office 365, we have Twitter, we have LinkedIn, a lot, but not all of the services that the group needed, and also not the support. And as I said, it's harder to set up. Okay, so let's just dial a little bit back, and we will talk about Black Basta for a few minutes. So some of you might know Black Basta already. Black Basta is a ransomware operation that works in a model of ransomware as a service. They've been active since 2022, and they're known for double extortion. This is very common. That means that they will also encrypt a victim's network and steal all of their files, and then threaten the victim that if they don't pay, they're not only not going to be able to use their network because it's encrypted, but also all of their files are going to be leaked online. Black Basta has attacked roughly 600 victims globally, and they are Russian-speaking operators and did focus mainly on Western economies. This is mainly where the money's at, and they've attacked many of American companies. Sorry. In February, just this year, just a few months ago, the Black Basta experienced something quite a hit. They took quite a hit when a Telegram group was created by a threat actor called Exploit Whispers that leaked their entire internal communications, their internal metrics chat to this Telegram group. And this was roughly 200,000 messages of everything that they talked about between September 2023 and September 2024. That revealed a lot of their tactics, how they're operating, their methodologies, everything that they were talking about this time. And it revealed the exact tools that we're using, the CVEs that they had, and exploited everything. And this is such an interesting, basically gold mine to focus on for researchers. And this is how we learned exactly how they used Phishing-as-a-Service. So from researchers that come even before the leak, we know that Black Basta's initial access, their most common access vector, is spear phishing emails. That means that they had to have a lot of emails, phishing emails, prepared to send to all of their victims. And every time that they do reconnaissance about a new organizations, they have to craft new emails for this organization. But they actually revealed, it's revealed through the chats that they had a lot of hard times doing that. And right here we can see a conversation. Actually, this is kind of just by one operator called Lapa. This is the guy from Black Basta that's in charge of the infrastructure. And you can see that Lapa says that he stayed up all night last night. And he really tried to fix the emails, the phishing emails that he was trying to create. And he ran into a lot of issues. He ran into issues with Outlook just ruining a lot of the style that he was trying to embed. And it didn't look real. And he was also really concerned that these emails are going to be blocked. So if you can see at the end of the one-sided conversation, he says, maybe we can find someone who can properly code the email so it displayed nicely in Outlook. Okay, so this is one example from the leaked chats. These are a few more examples, but essentially all of these chats just showed us that this was really hard for the Black Basta members to be on schedule, be on time with the phishing campaigns, and this was a major setback for them. And that meant they really did have to just try and get someone else to do it so that they can get access to the specific services that they looked for example, Citrix, Sonic Wall, RDWeb, and Microsoft. And they didn't want to be detected. They knew that they need their URLs and domains to be rapidly switched so that they won't be detected often. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the phishing-as-a-service providers that Black Basta resorted to, and they found them on underground forums, just looking for everybody that can essentially offer a phishing service. The first is Evil VNC. This is actually a very interesting service. Right now, right here, you can see demonstration of the panel that Evil VNC offers the buyers. And this is a service that has been developed by an actor called NoiseFan. This is a reputable actor on Russian-speaking forums, and this is how the portal itself looks. Okay, and Evil VNC is really special because Evil VNC has acknowledged that Evil Proxy that sets up a phishing page between the real site and the victim. This is something that can be detectable, and they're trying to do something different. So they created something that is essentially a live stream of the real Chrome browser, of the attacker browser, essentially, between the victim and the attacker itself. So there is a live stream, and the victim is actually trying to log into a real site on the attacker's computer, which is very, very cool. This is done via VNC, virtual network computing. And so this is such a cool service. However, it also costs a lot. This is probably the most expensive phishing service that we've seen. It costs $10,000. However, it is like the price for the entire source code and the panel itself and everything. And it's quite automated, meaning that if a buyer purchases this service, they will probably have a lot of their stuff just figured out for them. And we have seen the Black Basta members use this to get access to Microsoft accounts. And this is pretty cool. The second is Kalashnikov. This is the second provider that we have seen. Kalashnikov is name on underground forums. And he is selling just the panels. This is a lot cheaper, as you can see. This costs between $200 and $300 for a panel. And essentially what Kalashnikov does is just designing the login page and the emails if you request. And you can buy any panel that you want for a specific service. He offers a variety of services, actually dozens of services that we've seen globally in different languages, which is very, very cool. And so Kalashnikov designs the panel, and then the buyer is responsible to weaponize it and do all of the rest. Right here, we can see some of the conversations that the Black Basta members actually had with Kalashnikov, which is very, very cool. And also they talk about him. So we can see that Kalashnikov is offering to set up a proper domain to target Fortinet users. And you can see the domain that he offered that looks quite legit. It looks quite real, and it looks like something that we might fall for. And then we can see on the right that username GG, which is the head of the Black Basta gang, and Lapa, the head of infrastructure, they talk, and Lapa essentially says, wait, this is really cool that he is able to set up a live panel with 2FA. So when you request, bot triggers an alert asking for the code. So they are very impressed with this service, and you can see that they really like it, and they collab with Kalashnikov to get, for example, a list of different domains. So you can see below, these are domains that are targeting victims in Europe. And so Kalashnikov just provides them with the admin permissions for these domains and to run these domains. That's actually something pretty cool that we saw through the chats. And lastly, we have Verbo. Verbo is selling somewhat of a phishing kit, but also this is supported. He offers live support for everybody who needs. So he is available for chats if you run into any issues, which makes this Phishing-as-a-Service. And this is also pretty cool. You can see right here the panel that he offers the buyers. And essentially what Verbo does is the Verbo will create a fake phishing website. You tell him the domain that you want to use, and he will create a website for you. And then the buyer will weaponize it and take care of all of the other stuff. So this is also a cheaper service than the evil VNT that we've seen before. But it's more pricey than Kalashnikov's panels. This will cost, it's a changing price. It depends on if you rent it just for a week or if you buy the services and exactly what you request. But this is the range of prices that we've seen that Verbo is asking for his services. And this is actually pretty cool. And right here we can see another conversation, for example, that the Black Basta members had with Verbo. And Verbo essentially just tells them, okay, so I set up a panel, we are ready to go. The credentials are detected, the cookies are sniffed. This is what passes the MFA. And this is them trying to get credentials for both Citrix and to SonicWall. And also he talks to them about Microsoft. So you can see that they've been using this service just for many, many services to get credentials of users. And that's pretty cool. All right, so we're done talking about Black Basta and Phishing-as-a-Service. Let's dive into some recommendations. So we learned today, or maybe you knew that already, that MFA isn't bulletproof. And here's some some things that you can do in your organizations to make sure that you are still protected. The first is just to recognize that MFA can be bypassed by adversary in the middle. Adversary in the middle, we haven't really talked about this, but this is the service that Evil Jinx is this is what Evil Jinx is actually doing when they set up a proxy between the victim and the website. This is called an adversary in the middle. So every phishing that will use adversary in the middle in the middle techniques can bypass MFA, and we've also seen this with Evil VNC. When a VNC is set, this also can bypass MFA. So this is very important to just acknowledge. And this forces us still to be aware, but still use it. It's still very important to use MFA. It's still another layer of protection. And also, we've talked about MFA. It has a deadline, MFA. So every once in a while, if you close your browser or if you just the session token has ended, it won't be valid anymore. So it's still good. It provides us with a specific protection. So still use it, but prefer app-based MFA over SMS-based or email-based MFA. This can be more easily transmitted. And consider also implementing other security tools in your organizations. For example, use hardware security keys for phishing-resistant authentication, and consider passwordless authentication, which are methods that have been proven to stop session hijacking and phishing-based MFA bypass. Let's also talk about broader recommendations to defend against phishing and Phishing-as-a-Service specifically. Harden your email security. That means that you need to educate your employees on phishing and run simulations and set up actual protection on your email, authenticating email senders and filtering malicious emails or suspected emails. Also, learn and monitor remote services that your organization is using and which vulnerabilities these services have today. And additionally, use brand monitoring. Brand monitoring will allow your organization to take down any phishing pages that imitate your business. And additionally, consistently monitor threats using threat intelligence services. And this will allow you to track trends and any new phishing service that rises, any new threat that is today globally in the cybercrime ecosystem, and anticipate attacks. All right. Any questions? Amir, I think you're muted.
I was muted, correct. Thank you for that. So first of all, Agal, thank you very much for the presentation. I think it was very interesting, very exciting. We did have a few questions actually coming in. So let's run through a few. And of course, if for the attendees, if you have additional questions, this would be the time to type them into the Q&A box. So the first question that came in is, do we know of other ransomware groups that are using Phishing-as-a-Service as part of their infrastructure?
Okay, that's a cool question. All right, so actually, we do know that some ransomware operations use phishing kits. I'm not sure to say about phishing services, but we know some of these groups use phishing kits. For example, Jinx that we have talked about today. We know that actually a group that is named Scatter Spider is a financially motivated group, and it works alongside with other ransomware operations. For example, Dragon Force, and it used to work with Ransom Hub. It used to work with Alpha V. This is actually a group that uses Evil Jinx in their attacks. So this is actually something cool to know. And that means a lot of operations probably use that. But what's really interesting here is that we were able to see these specific services, the specific phishing services through the chats of Black Basta, the leaked chats. And this just shows us how everything about this happens behind the scenes, meaning this is harder to actually detect. And this is something that's going on behind the scenes. And we got to view that through the Black Basta leaked chats.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have two more questions for now. Okay, I think you actually answered this one, but let's ask it as it was written anyway. So how did the leak of Black Basta's chat reveal the outsourcing of phishing activities? So maybe it's more specific.
Yeah. Actually, that's interesting. Like I can say how we basically were able to find some of the
Yeah.
services on the chats. And this actually took a lot of research. Like this chat, the 200,000 messages that are out there, they talk about so many different topics and how they use so many different services, so many different CVEs. And we just could see and just could tell that this was a recurring issue for them. They kept trying to find phishing services and phishing as a service providers, and we could see that this is a recurring issue. So we definitely saw that they were struggling with it and had to get support. And then we tried to find which is the support that they were looking and found these services in their chats. That was very interesting.
Okay. Okay. Definitely interesting. And I think we have time for one more. Um, okay, I think this one's more generic around phishing. So what is the most common way people fall victim to phishing when targeted by ransomware groups? Or maybe let's extend that. What are the most common phishing techniques used by ransomware groups?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I can say for a certainty that most groups they will need um, a phishing that actually is probably likely to work. It doesn't hurt to try. It doesn't hurt to send a lot of emails and just try to trick their victims. But they do want to be more precise. They don't want to be blocked. They don't want their services to be blocked. They don't have to generate. They don't want to have to generate multiple domains over and over again. And so what they will usually try to do is craft very, very good emails. And emails that actually look good. And we also know of other groups that might be able to use phishing outside of email, whether it's via YouTube videos online or just setting up a fake site, a fake phishing site, hoping that people might download your malware or fill in their credentials by accident. But definitely emails are the most common vector.